I'm Danny, that witch next door, and you're listening to That Witch Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of the very special episode where I am half interviewing, half storytelling with my husband on our crazy financial journey and everything that we have learned over these last crazy 6 years and what we want to offer to all of you through that experience. So I hope you enjoyed part 1, and thank you so much for joining us here for part 2. And now on to the show, which brings us anyways to 2021, which, folks, just might be the worst of all.
Starts off with a bang.
Starts off with my friend's husband in the hospital. And for you, what did the beginning of 2021 look like?
So I started in March of 2020. By January of 2021, I'd went from complete novice, just starting out in the industry at the very bottom, to an unofficial CFO / VP of the company. Like I'd worked my way up real quick, and once again saw a lot of potential. And in January, we had we had a lot of our stock sitting in storage shelters,
like a storage unit.
Yeah,
like you're thinking of. Yeah,
a storage. Yeah, big storage unit.
Yeah, where you keep your shit. Yeah,
and
not a professional warehouse is what I'm trying to clarify.
Correct.
Yeah, like a home one, basically.
And being January in Colorado, pretty cold, and there was some disassembling of gas equipment, also involved with a heater.
Space heater.
Yep, a space heater to keep the guys warm, which was not the correct space heater. And next thing you know, our I think it was like 75% of our inventory, valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. A lot of it, which was custom made, that you could no longer get. That some of it was vintage stuff that you'd have to get custom made. Ended up catching on fire, and it was all gone.
Along with how many units?
Just so many. It was.
Mm-hmm. It was a really damaging fire.
Yeah, so that was the end of that
company.
we kind of tried to pick up the pieces and see what we could do, and since I saw all the numbers, it took 2 weeks before I had to tell my boss / partner at that point, because it was going to be our new company, that like, man, this isn't going to work. There's just no way we're going to be able to sustain. Like, again, I have a kid, and we're already just on the fringe. Like, I don't know if I can work for a couple months without being paid. And even though about 5 months before that, like, we had proved that we could generate 80 grand in revenue. Like, the money was there, a lot of money to be made, but it was still a time and in a position that, like, man, I don't know how long I can wait for the money though.
Yeah.
So we ended up, shaking hands and wishing the best of luck, and there it was, right back on unemployment again. Mm-hmm. It was, about 10 months later.
Yeah. When
I thought I was going to be one of the heads of a company, and right back there.
It was an extremely difficult start to the year. My friend's husband and who was also our very close friend since high school as well, he ended up passing away in February after the 6 months of being in the hospital. This was, I believe, a week and a half after the fire. I mean, they were extremely back to that.
Right after.
And both of these events really shifted a lot. It just did. I think you kind of could infer that, but it just, I don't know, especially now looking back, it really did shift a lot of things. And so about a month or two after that, I did just want to throw this in there. That is when I came to you with the idea to move to New England.
Mhm.
It was at the very, very, very beginning, like right before spring of 2021. I was feeling ready for, it was an adventure. We had wanted to move out of state years and years and years prior, and we always stayed because we just have so many wonderful friends here. But it's an adventure. Like, to move somewhere else has been something Jared and I have wanted to do together for literally since we've been together.
Yeah, we talked about moving up to Washington in 2014. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was forever ago.
We've talked about it for quite a while.
Now, people, the debt, the credit card debt, it's astronomical at this point. Okay. We're on our second bout of unemployment in a year, basically.
Yeah. In 10 months.
Yeah. And we had, even from you getting hired at that job, that didn't help us a ton. Like, you weren't started on some super high pay. You were barely being paid that much more than our unemployment. Oh, and by the way, we're still breaking even at the shop. I'm not cutting a check. And that's no sweat on anybody. That's just the financial reality that Jared and I, as like heads of household, are living in. And so everything is, and I'm still like, we're not shopping. We're not going out to eat. Like, and we hit that point where there are no expenses to cut out. There's literally no expenses
we already
did
cut out years ago.
Yes. Everything has to be about generating more income now, period. It is the only way out of this situation. And so you were on unemployment, but that was after taking a really horrible job for 3 days and having a discussion with each other that you were not going to stay at that soul-crushing job.
Yeah, it was pretty standard, manual labor stuff. And I went in for a foreman job because, I was just a VP. I think I qualify for being
Well, that's what the job listing is for. That's what the position they offered you was.
And instead of giving me that job, they offered me a grunt job again. And thinking like I kind of in the mindset of like, I got to kind of take any job. I can't stay on unemployment for as long. I got to figure something out. And then I was like, well, what about salary? And then they're like, well, that's the starting salary is this. So we're going to start you even lower than that. And I was like, I came in here for a foreman job. And now you're giving me substantially less than you even advertised. Can I meet in the middle somewhere? Can I get? And then I was asking them like, look, I know how good of a worker I am, and I've been in your position. I've hired a bunch of people. Like, can I work in a 6 month review, or I think I came with a 3-month review. Like, I know in 3 months I can prove to you that I'm worth my salt here. Like, that I'm a good worker. I promise. I know you don't have to believe me. That's why I want the 3 months. And I think they came back, with a 6 month. And I was just floored by the fact that they would still wait that long. And I'm, willing to work with them here, and they wouldn't budge on anything. And so I went to work. It was awful. It was horrible work. It was just the most bullshit grunt work. And I started hearing about the inner workings of the company. And I heard a lot of stories about the owner that were not appealing. And so I quit again. Didn't know if I was going to get unemployment again. Didn't know what the hell was going to happen. But I was like, no, I'm not. And I do remember basically on the second night, I think when I came home, I just laid on the floor while we were putting Blair to bed, and it was extremely obvious. And to Danny about how crushed I was about this situation. And I kind of inferred the question for the official okay to get the fuck out of there. And so she gave me it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try one more day, see if I can at least work it out until I find a new job. Like if it's 2 weeks, fine. And that day was also a complete nightmare. The owner wanted us to stay in a building that they were going to lock because we hadn't finished, because our crew was far smaller than was needed. And she wanted us to work not only the overtime we had already done, but to stay until everything was done, which meant we'd be locked inside the building. And she basically didn't give a shit. She was going to figure out how to get us out of the building after we were done. So yeah, I left immediately after that. I called the next morning. I called my boss and was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out for me, man. Yeah. And I got the fuck out of that place and right back to not knowing where the hell we're going.
But that is when, so at the end of that job, when you left, marked a significant change in how you looked for a job from then on. And you changed industries for the first time. And I also ended up making the decision to leave my company that I had started 5 years prior, and, that I had co-founded, and there were lots and lots of personal reasons, and there were lots of financial and professional reasons. And a lot of the glaring ones were similar to what we had talked about, like what you were just saying. Similar to when you left the startup that had all the inventory burned down, was, this is a passion project. I see a lot of potential and all that stuff. Like, I'm excited. And this isn't worth my family's well-being. That was kind of the decision. So I think that this was a big shifting point, because you are told that your passion is what's going to carry you, right? Like, as long as you find the passion project.
Do the work you love.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, the work that I loved was literally creating the exact same stressors, intrusive thoughts, anxieties, everything that previous jobs had brought. And that was the indicator, like, this is damaging to my family's and my well-being. And again, that's surface. It's such a complex, that's what goes into a passion project like a business. It's much more a complex decision than that. But I had this intuitive nudge when it came to that which I had technically started as a little side blog in 2019, and decided to really go a lot full force with once I started learning astrology more purposefully. I had been studying astrology for a while out of fun and hobby, and for my spirituality and my witchcraft and stuff. And I started really, really harnessing it and being really purposeful with it to actually incorporate into my business. Made the very just difficult decision to go out on my own. And it was actually right around the same day. That was when you started looking for jobs, like I said, in a whole new field.
Yeah. I decided at that point that if I'm going to work, if I'm going to have to work and not be able to work for myself just yet, then I'm going to find something that's going to teach me something. I'm going to gain a lot for my next job. And that was the biggest mindset change one of the biggest ones I've ever had, was looking at a job of what will it teach me? Because then you don't really have to worry about the money, because you're going to get a new skill. And the more skills you have, the more value you're going to have, the more value you're going to have, the more money you can make. So it was another situation where the money wasn't super important. So it really opened, even though, we weren't doing super hot financially, it was another step in opening so many more options. And I have always struggled with severe social anxiety. And so I figured that's where I start. What position can I obtain where I can finally, once and for all, conquer that? And I figured talking to people is my biggest fear. Can't stand it. I have a horrible time looking at people in the eye. Like even my own wife, I have she gets about 4 seconds and then I'm looking away again. Like I have a pretty severe social anxiety. So I started looking specifically for sales jobs that was going to force me to talk to people all day, every day. And I figured I can't not do that job for a little while and not come out I can't have the same social anxiety. Like it won't work. So it was just kind of once again putting myself with my back against the wall of either I learn how to deal with this or I don't know, they fire me or something. I don't know what would have happened. So I started looking for sales jobs, started doing a lot of research, doing as much as I could to educate myself about the subject. And I think I took like 2 months, or I took like a month of doing that before I started applying, but I ended up taking 2 months and I ended up landing a job that required 3 to 5 years of experience, which obviously I had 0, and a bachelor's degree minimum, which again, I had an associate's in electrical engineering. So another 0. And from the first interview until the time they sent me the email that I was hired, it was about, I think it was like 6 days, because I had all the research and all the, I kind of forced myself to gain experience by like taking free classes and like whatever information I could absorb, I did. And I assume that must have shown through because it took them no time to hire me, even though I was not at all the type of person they were looking for, at least qualifications wise. And yeah, it was a pretty nice shift to have.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest obstacles I had to overcome to, I don't know, I gave myself a pretty good pat on the back for landing that one, because it was one of the few times that I followed through and really I put what seemed to be almost an impossible goal and actually reached it. And I think I don't know if it was just the timing or whatever, but that was one of the first real times that I felt like you could way off in the distance, you could see that light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, it wasn't so fucking pitch black for once.
That was insane. The whole process, got that whole year. It was absolutely a huge accomplishment. It should be a big pat on the back. Because most people A, either won't apply, or B, take even themselves seriously enough to actually apply themselves in that because of all the imposter syndrome that comes with that. Since I had left Arcana, my previous company, and I'm really committing to that, which we're on unemployment, we're racking up credit card debt from bills. And I do get to the point where I know that I need help, essentially. I know that I need support and further education in my business in order to get it where I need it to be, and honestly in the timeline I need it to be in. I can't afford to do the wait 5 years to turn a profit at this point. So even though we're on unemployment, this was not long before Jared had taken this job that he's talking about. We had been on unemployment, single income again, and our credit card debt was probably around, I don't know, $12,000 at that point. I mean, it was high.
I think that's what it was.
And I decided to rebrand and hire our lovely Kaylee, right, my brand designer, and do a full rebrand. And less than a month, I think it was maybe a month after graduating from her program and doing my big Design to Shine rebrand, which literally paved the way and set the stage for the rest of my business success. I stand by that. I invested further. I followed my intuition. It was a fucking, some might call it more than a bold move. So we couldn't afford it. That was just the truth. We couldn't afford it, but I invested in a business coach and in a high ticket program and everything. Not like a $2,800K fucking business coach or anything, but a high ticket business coach. And like I said, I had just invested in the rebrand. This is all out of pocket. Again, this is all on credit. Everything is on credit and being seen as an investment so far. And it really, again, this is why the reason I talk about this decision is not to encourage you to make like shitty decisions with your credit card. But I can tell you that you can use credit, whatever that looks like for you, to make some risky decisions that people are probably going to tell you is nuts and not the safe way. And maybe they're right. But guess who was also right? Me. It was the right investment to make. It was fucking terrifying. And it got really, really terrifying after that, because even once Jared got his job, the credit card maxed out. So right after we thought everything was going to be okay, the credit card maxes out. And I think it was finally at 16,000 at that point. And oh my God. Because again, I put the business investments on there too. We're still being really disciplined at the grocery store. We're not going out to eat. We don't do anything. Our date nights are us giving our kid to one of our moms, and we just hang out at our house by ourselves and make dinner at home and just get alone adult time basically for free. And so it was terrifying. It was risky. And I knew that that was just the truth. I did not know how to run a successful online service business. All my background was in retail. And the truth was I left because I never ended up making what I needed to make to sustain our future and our family. And so Jared has this new job. We're in a really scary financial situation, and I'll spare you the details on this, but we go for a loan at a credit union around here and are promised up, down, left, and right, all kinds of things, hard pulls on our credit. Yes, 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 all the way through. Send these items, checking them all off the box. For 6 weeks, we are through this process to get this loan. And we got denied at the very end of the entire process. And they didn't even tell us from the beginning that was possible. They definitely should give you those disclosures, by the way. That's business ethics.
Yeah, they made it seem like, oh yeah, we can get this through easy.
This is
no
through.
problem.
This is yes. I mean, I can't tell you.
Because we had great credit. Even though we had a lot of debt, we both had really good credit.
We never missed a bill because we ended up still putting it on the credit cards. Like, we were in debt, but our credit was fine. My credit started taking a huge hit though, because the card got maxed out. And that's when we were in panic mode, because our credit was at the time what we thought like our saving grace. Like, at least we had prioritized always making our bills. And essentially we have these people pull these hard pulls on our credit, right? So our credit goes down even further. We go through their process for 6 weeks. So do you think for 6 weeks we're looking for other alternatives? No, because we think we have found our solution here. It's like debt consolidation loan. Okay. And only to get dropped on our asses essentially at the last second. Have one more employee tell us, oh, it's because they did this. Let us just retry it one more time. Let us just do this one more time. And I think we gave them another week. and they fucking turned around and did it and denied us
Yep.
again. And I thought, I don't know what that was end of summer, beginning of fall of 2021. And that was terrifying. That was one of the scariest times.
Yeah.
Safety nets were all gone. All the savings are gone.
That was basically the last safety net besides selling the house, because we had a decent amount of equity in it. We talked about that a lot, where that
was the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, but the final safety net is we move in with my parents, sell the house, start all over. Yeah. And figure something out. Who knows what we would have done then.
It was like when we got dropped by those people at the very end like that, like it was beyond crushing. You already know and understand financial stress if you've been through it, and to have somebody give you this light of hope for 6 straight weeks and you literally do every single thing they ask you to do in order to get that. And then they leave you hanging high and dry, and then they go, oh, actually, no, we could probably do it. Nope, just kidding. Fucked you over again.
Yeah.
That was so fucking hard on us, like our spirit, on our marriage, on just like, the weight was so fucking heavy. It felt like everything was so insanely far away. And essentially where we got to after that was a little bit of asking family for their random advice or recommendations for other loan officers we could go through, or other credit unions that had better reputations or whatever, because we were literally on the brink of our worst case scenario that we had planned for. And we ended up calling our lender that helped us purchase the house from Jared's grandma. So since it was a family sale, we didn't have a realtor, and I just worked directly with a lender. And this is why I talk about this stuff, because I didn't know to call him. I even remember a couple of our older family members being like, I don't know why you wouldn't have called him in the first place.
No one ever told me that.
No one told me any of this. Jared and I have just been like dealing with this through experience. We didn't get educated in fucking high school about what happens when you go into debt, whether it was from teachers or from our parents. There was no fucking handbook on this. So and we had gotten shut down by those people. I had sought out 2 other alternatives before that also reached a dead end. I mean, we're fucking hopeless at this point. And hopelessness does a lot to a person. And luckily, because we called this person, we ended up qualifying for a really, really amazing refinance in our home, because like Jared said, we had never missed a mortgage payment, and we had built up a really decent amount of equity, and we live in Colorado, so the values of our homes are just stupid
have
right
done
now.
Nothing but skyrocket for the past
so that did end up helping
8
at
years.
least. Yeah. So we were able to do a refinance that paid off our debt and got us that fresh start. Here's the thing though. This was in October, I believe it went through. And it is now over 6 months past that, right? We're going into like our 8th month since then. And let me just tell you all, like, new situation, same principles. If there's anything that happened over all of those years and everything that we told you, it is resiliency in our relationship and our communication with each other, our conviction in our values and our goals, and I mean this, genuinely learning from your experience every day and putting it into practice tomorrow. Every day. And that's why, I mean, you could also probably call it recovering from some financial trauma, because we're a little scared to spend money now.
Yeah, still.
Which is a good thing. But because of all of that experience, we live by even stronger values than we set off with at the beginning. That the values that carried us through all of this, because what ended up happening through all of that having to say no to going out to eat, never ever spending money on anything for fucking 6 years. We would spend money a couple times a year, like at Christmas, sort of.
Yeah,
It
there was
strict.
a lot of times of having to deal with the embarrassment of my friends buying me a beer because I'd want to hang out with them. Didn't get to see them a whole lot, so when I finally could, I'd go out for a beer, and I'd be like, I mean, for one, I don't drink that much anyway, but it was also just, I'd spend 2-3 hours with the guys, and they're like, dude, you want a beer? I'd always say no, and then they'd come back with one, like, dude, just have one. A lot of embarrassing times of just, it's worth dealing with that and sticking to it and just having to suck it up. But I mean, doesn't change the fact that it sucks.
Yeah. It was so, it just made you like doubt yourself, honestly, and doubt your question, like your intuition, and doubt your conviction and stuff like that. But what ended up happening through this is why I have said so many times on this show that your intuition doesn't steer you wrong, because I have this fucking 6-year-long story to prove it, that like, I don't know how many times I can tell you throughout all of those years, I was like, I don't know why I know this is going to work out, but I know that it is. Again, through all those fights with our family and friends who didn't understand why we wouldn't just give up what we were doing and just go find whatever jobs would pay the bills and give up on this self-employment dream and stuff like that. And now on the other side of it, I don't think that we've ever been this intentional with our spending. I don't think we've ever been so grateful for the things that we buy now and for every single penny that gets deposited into our fucking bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And not in that scarcity, fearful way, but just, the purest form of appreciation and like relief.
Yeah, because after doing 6 years of it, being able to buy something that's not necessarily like
a need.
Yeah, that like I have to get this in order for my work so I can make money or make more money, or it's not food or something. It's just something that I put off for years and years that I'm like, oh yeah, I really do want this thing. And just being able to buy it, like that feeling was nostalgic. That's how long it was that we had to live this way, that it reminded me of a time long ago, because it had been so long since I was able to just buy something that was $45.
For real.
And not have to be like, oh shit, I can't afford
panicking about that.
Mm-hmm.
$45 was steep to drop in one setting on something we didn't need.
We could make $45 last a long time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so, I know you're probably like, where was the trick? There wasn't one. There was no trick. There was no special quote that changed our world. There was no singular mentor that took us under their wing and no. This is very, very real, genuine, combination of external factors outside of your control, the internal factors that are within your control, and just real life experience, real debt.
Yeah.
Just real debt.
Real consequences.
Yeah.
of reaching that end of, like we had already said, selling your house, selling your vehicles, starting over.
Yeah.
Basically from square one with a little bit of, after selling all your shit, having a little bit of cash on hand.
That doesn't have to be your last resort. You don't have to want to give everything up for the self-employment dream. What I want you to take away from this is being willing to ask yourself and talk with anybody else if you happen to co-run a household, especially if you have dependents. What are your non-negotiables? Because we did name those a long time ago and they didn't change. That's the craziest part of that whole thing is our non-negotiables, we named them and they never changed. And for that, having autonomy over our schedule and not working for an employer, that's not everyone's top priority. There's plenty of people that having that kind of job security with an employer satisfies their number one conviction or value or goal. You know what I mean? That's not, again, this isn't preaching to get you to quit your job. This is a story about literally being told by everybody around you that you're doing it wrong and making all the wrong decisions. And you might not know exactly why you know that you are making the right decisions, but you are, and you keep following it either way. That's fucking insanely simple and powerful. I think that it really, really is. I think that that's the power of a decision, quite honestly.
Yeah, steadfast decision.
Mm-hmm. And so I want you to know that, like, if it's been taking a while since you needed to grow your income or sign your next client or get a promotion or a raise or whatever that financial stress has been for you, and especially on top of whatever your financial trauma looks like for you. So that's just our married financial trauma. That's not even our childhoods and shit. You know what I mean? Like, everybody also has whatever shit they went through when they grew up on top of that. But I do want you to really let yourself decide what you want and fucking hold it. Like, hold to it.
Yeah.
I think what I see more often than not is the imposter syndrome take over, the intrusive thoughts take over, and the valuing other people's opinions and thoughts over your own end up making your life decisions for you. And none of those things should be making your life decisions for you, whatever those are for you. So one of the things I kind of wanted to leave everybody with, so we've learned a lot over the years and we've gained so much self-control and discipline. Well, mainly me, as you heard, Jared kind of had a lot of that. But what I wanted to ask you, babe, for everybody is, like we talked about at the very beginning, this is such an unspoken and untaught about topic for the most part. Luckily, that's finally starting to gain some traction, I feel like, and people are starting to fucking talk about it in younger circles and industries and stuff. It doesn't feel so above all of us anymore. I would love to know what your advice would be to that younger version of yourself, like right before all of this happened to us, as far as finances go. What are the things that you wish you knew back then? You know what I mean? That we kind of learned along the way.
I think it could be, it comes from the first story of the richest man in Babylon, but it's summarized by fellow podcast host Jason Stapleton in a simple phrase of spend less than you make and invest the rest in what you know. And I'd heard that a few years ago, but I don't think I fully comprehended it, because I think a lot of people have the idea that investments means stocks or maybe real estate. And that's how you invest. And the truth is there's so many other, like financially, there's so many places you can invest to put your money that is so much different than that, because for a while I did learn stocks. I taught myself every day. When I had free time at work, I'd look at the market and I learned how to read graphs, and I stayed on top of it, and it was a fucking nightmare. Most people don't want to do stocks. And I feel like people are like, well, I don't want to do that. The amount of effort to put in is not what it's worth. So I guess investing is not for me. But the truth is, there's so many other styles of investment. And if you're where we were at, fully in debt and being like, I don't have $2 I can invest in something that's, give me an ROI of 10% or whatever, like, then invest in yourself. Because that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned. And it finally came to fruition with this job of really trusting that I am capable of so many things if I just give myself the information. And the information's out there. You're listening to this on your phone. You're listening to this on a laptop. You have all the information at your fingertips. It's just being willing to go gain the skills, to go gain the knowledge, to go make your own experience, and trust that your value is worth far more than you're probably giving credit for. Because we get so locked into we're worth whatever piece of paper our degree says we're worth. We're worth whatever our experience or our past. Like there's nothing
what's in our bank account.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many things that we base our self-worth and our value off of. And it's never taught to us, and it's very, very rarely ever told to us that you're infinitely valuable. Whatever you think you're worth, whatever money you think you want, you can have it. You just have to be willing to put in the work, to get the information, to go that extra mile, and to put it to use. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be financially, because it sucks. It sucks when you're like, I wish I could take this $2,000 class. It would make me, it could teach me so many things, but it just means you have to work that little bit harder to go find that information, because it's out there. And that it goes for every single salary amount. It goes for every single amount you have in savings. It doesn't matter. That principle holds true to everybody. And I that's definitely something that I wish I would have understood earlier, because for a long time it was, well, when I have money, I'm going to invest in this. When I have money, I'm going to put in these accounts. When I have money, I'm going to do this, without thinking, well, why do you need money to invest in yourself? The ability to learn almost anything short of space flight and brain surgery, you can learn for free online. If you go get a library card, invest in yourself, learn the shit you want to learn, and then find out what skills you'll also have to learn to make it profitable. And it's not that hard to put that information into work, and then just learn the hard way of trial and error, fail early, fail often, and just really invest in you.
And as far as accessibility to that education goes, first of all, you're listening to a podcast right now, and there are a stupid amount of business and finance podcasts for you. Like, not the old crunchy dude you think is lecturing you about it. I mean, in language you resonate with and understand. We were just talking about this, I don't think it was on the show, I think it was before, about how more accessible that's becoming, and how it's becoming this really cool trend on social media, are people sharing their industry secrets and their knowledge of their expertise and their niche and stuff. And a lot of those people are financial advisors, and they're our age or a little younger even. And they had access to, or they have this information, however they built it or got it, but they're sharing it for free on their platforms. You can search by keyword right now in the podcast app you're listening to right now. Finances for millennials, finances for Gen Z. You know what I mean? Like, practical budgeting, all of these things can also be then turned into searches on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. Like, it's every day I see more and more people of a younger and more diverse demographic offering. And that's important to know, because it means we need lots of styles of this information. We don't want this type of valuable information, finances and what is it called? Livelihood, to be coming from one kind of source to one kind of person. We want this to reach as many kinds of ears as possible. And I promise you, there's a podcast host or a platform host that you do resonate with that is out there. And then the other thing that kind of came to me while you were talking was, investing in yourself also looks like the major inner work that we did all of those years. And it was a lot. It was a lot. Not just, it would start with things small, like just supporting each other through those hard times, like I said, and being honestly brave enough to say your worst fears to the other one, because it's terrifying to say those to your partner when you think you're trying to be strong for them or not add to the stress. You know what I mean? Like, you had to have the courage to go to the other one and be like, I'm freaking the fuck out a little bit. Like, I really am doubting myself and all of this, and if it's possible. And so some of that investing was like giving ourselves breaks from working late hours at night so that we could just take care of ourselves. And those kinds of investments grew. And we started inadvertently from such strict budgeting and like cooking from home, we started implementing all of these other lifestyle changes that were just better for us, because you learn when you live on that strict of a budget, you learn efficiency very quickly. You learn bang for your buck very easily. You learn what's valuable, a valuable way to spend your time very easily. Like, you learn all of those things. And so they became easier and easier decisions, little lifestyle changes, that it wasn't about being skinny or you know what I mean? Like, in this trying to be like the empty-headed goals, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like that. It was genuinely about what is best for us. The more that we stuck to our intuition and those moral convictions on our values, it spread in the best way. It spread in the best way to every other area of our lives. And we started, genuinely trying to live every area of our life in whatever way was going to align us with our best path, period. And it became easier to put up boundaries with people, not have those arguments with people anymore because we don't receive that. You know what I mean? It started getting easier and easier. And this wasn't after our finances were doing good. This was midway through all of those fucking years we took you through. We started making all of those different decisions, and we started traditions within our family that we'll probably keep forever now, that were born from not having the finances. So like, for our daughter's first birthday in 2019, it's one of our hardest years of all of that. And so for her first birthday, we had family over and I cooked everything with all those coupons I talked about, planned all of that. We cooked everything from hand, so I didn't have to buy as much as possible. And we didn't get our daughter, I still don't think we've ever gotten her a birthday present. You get her Christmas presents, but we don't get her birthday presents because it started as what became a tradition from that first year. We decided if we're going to spend money on this day, it's going to be something of quality together. We're not going to buy her something. She was if you've ever been around a 1-year-old, they're not going to remember whatever stupid fucking toy it is that you buy them. And we were like, we're not saying we're not going to spend money, but it's going to be something really, really intentional.
Yeah, if we basically if it's a weekend and we're lucky enough to have it on our actual birthday, then we do that day. But we make a whole day out of what movies she wants to watch, where she wants to eat, what activities she wants to do, if she wants to go somewhere, and it's just 100% quality time the entire day, nonstop, limited phone use, limited like as much as possible to just make that day 100% about her and just being with her and just teaching her, hopefully with the intention to teach her that, stuff's just stuff. It's all shit.
Yeah. How to place value.
Yeah. There's plenty of things that I own that mean the world to me, but still spending time is, especially this day and age, is so like quality, real focused time is such a rare occurrence that that's kind of our intention of being extremely intentional with her. And
her last birthday, since it's in August, was during that terrifying time right after the credit union dropped us. And so I took her Jared had to work during the day, and I took her to the park, so free. I took her to Dollar Tree because I knew that was a place where I could like make her feel a little spoiled and obviously only have to spend $10 or whatever. And then I took her to the consignment store, to the kids' consignment store, and I let her pick out one dress up outfit, any like princess dress, although she picked Cowboy Woody from Toy Story. And then we made her birthday pancakes. We didn't buy a cake. We didn't buy a dinner. We made birthday cake pancakes from home and blew candles and sang and stuff and did the whole thing at home. And so that whole birthday cost, whatever that is,
like $30
if that,
most.
Because I got that Woody outfit at consignment. So it was probably $8 or $10 or whatever. And so it's so funny because I look back on, when those birthdays were taking place and like what was going on around it. Jared and I's anniversaries are during that time. Our birthdays are during all of these years, right? Like this was 6 years. Do you know how many like special occasions and shit that there were? If there's one thing we learned, it is the true power of intention. And really being intentional and purposeful with your time or your decisions or your money or who you're spending all of that with or on or whatever. Like that's why I preach so fucking much about being unapologetic about your alignment, because it might not be the overnight success like you're being promised. It might be a handful of years, like 6 years, but you're going to come out on the other side and get that like surge of confirmation. It's so hard. It's so beyond that. It's so beyond validation and affirmation. Like it's insane. But what it is to me is that's the feeling of pure alignment. That's that feeling of like, I knew it. I'm not saying I knew it and I told you so to be a dick. I mean, like, my intuition, like I never doubted it. I doubted it, but I kept following it. Like I questioned it lots of times, but I still never veered from it. Neither of us did.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that job that you took that you had to quit 3 days later, we realized in the long run, you had to do that. You had to have that to shift your mindset so that you stopped looking in that industry and you ended up looking in it changed how you looked for a job, and it changed, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I've always liked the analogy of you can drive from LA to Manhattan in the dark with one headlight. You don't
we
need
used
much.
that analogy so
Yep.
much.
And
I forgot about
and going along with that analogy, we ended up taking some wrong turns, and we ended up lost as fuck a lot of times, but we knew our destination. We know our destination. We know our direction, and all you got to do is just take a second, figure out which way is north, go from there, take that one next step, get right back on the road, and eventually you just realize, like, shit, I'm halfway across the fucking country now.
Yeah.
Like, back there when everything seemed so hard to start, like, God, that seems so far away. And we've learned so much. We've progressed so much. We've advanced so much. It's still dark. Still only got one goddamn headlight, but we're halfway there. Now we're 3/4 of the way there. Now we're like, and it's just, I've always loved that analogy because I tie so much into it about our entire journey of, like, you could see us on a map just spiraling in so many different directions. And so, especially at the beginning of, like, how'd you guys end up in the ocean? That's the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, there is that light somewhere. Might be searching around pitch black for a long time. You might get lucky and you find a shortcut. Who knows? But eventually, you gotta search around in some blackness. Just chill out. Double check where you're headed, where you're going. Are you on the right track? All right, take that next step. Just pick yourself up and let's keep going.
Yeah, if you use all those wrong turns and going in circles and stuff, like I said, if you just purposefully file all of that away in your little noggin and use it to not make that circle one more time, like, that's really all that we had to do. Like, the truth is that we learned from every single piece, the mistakes that we made and the mistakes that other people made around us, people that were directly affecting us, all of it. I took that away from your investing and your learning too. Like, we really, if there was an opportunity for taking something away for our future experience, we did it. We did it. We filed that away and used everything as a learning experience, not in a toxic positivity way, like where it was like, everything's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was genuinely like, no, that sucked. What are the things we have to do now so that one doesn't happen again? Oh shit, happened again anyways. Okay,
Yeah.
so what did we get wrong about our first interpretation of that first time? Yeah, like, it really is about constantly using your experience for your experience.
Yeah.
It was, God, fucking right. And the truth is, it's not over. We're like breathing. Are you kidding me? Compared to where we were, we're breathing. But we're doing the same as the average fucking Coloradan in this psycho fucking economy within our country right now. Jesus. Like, I mean, I would say we're dog paddling. We're not necessarily treading water up to our mouths anymore, but, like, there is still tons of work that we do. We're still very, very much in that learning process. We're still very much investing in ourselves. That's probably not ever going to go away. And I think that that's kind of my final advice and everything, or like thought I'll leave you with, or kind of insight, is I promise you that if you always think, after I do this, it's going to get better. After I do this, it's going to get better. Like Jared said, like, that always better will always stay that far away. You have to, if there's one thing we learned from the financial stuff, but also from having a child, one of our main mottos around here is you celebrate the small victories. You take the time to really ground down in those fucking moments and appreciate them. I'm serious, because they will fuel you. They will carry you to the next one. And that's celebrating those small wins. I know it's going to sound so cheesy. It's really those things that make you realize it might not look like whatever I picture 20 years from now, but I am already living my dream life. I can do that right now, even if it's in just really small ways, even if living my dream life right now means just being as intentional as possible with all my decisions in alignment for me. You know what I mean? Like that in and of itself, that's fucking beautiful, man, because I promise you that 5+ years ago version of you is looking at you doing that right now. You've come a long fucking way. You really have. That's something that every year we were able, I mean, you heard that story. So every year we were able to look back and go, all right, if we could get through that.
Yeah.
Get through anything.
Yeah. Started off with an absolute, probably the worst part, at least for me.
The injury, yeah, probably.
And just, like we said, year after year after year of shit just blowing up in our faces, and then have to restart without any reason to believe that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
We had
no proof.
Every reason to believe that this is going to end in utter failure, and we're going to fall so hard in our face that we're not going to be able to get back up. But for whatever reason, like you already said, that's those small victories of like, no, this step, this tiny, minuscule step that is clearly in the right direction for us is enough. Even though we're getting hit by tidal wave after tidal wave, that one step was enough. Like, no, that's the right way. We just know it.
Yeah. God. So, if you're going through it, and you probably are, because again, there's a high statistical chance you're listening to this from inside the US, and it's pretty fucked over here right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked financially over here right now.
If there's any time to be really raw with financial shit, it's right now.
Give yourself the space and validation how fucking hard this shit is and how soul crushing it is. Because when you give yourself that validation, I promise it seems weird, but it does help you go, oh, that's why it's even more important to meet my basic needs right now and to make that one of your non-negotiables. Truly, that's one of our biggest fucking lessons we had to learn. No matter what our dream is, no matter what our financial situation is, we physically can't make it better without top fucking prioritizing our family's basic fucking needs first. Okay. So like, and that includes your mental state. That includes your emotional state as well as your physical state. Okay. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. And not only that, start today by just being intentional with something that's for you. And you're increasing your value, your self-value. Again, it's not about what all those other people are telling you. It's that self-value. Like, I love how you said that. You get to decide that, like you really do. It's not up to anybody else. And I think that one of my final and biggest would be, there's another thing we learned from, it's being open-minded and not being worried to be unconventional. Because there's a lot of people telling you, of usually older ages, to put it nicely, that you're doing things the non-conventional and non-safe way. And I think, speaking of safety, it's safe enough to say now, I don't know that all of the traditional ways are the best ways. And we have to be able to start doing the unconventional and trying things and yes, failing at them, because again, everything we failed at is valuable to us. Every failure that we have in all of those 6 years is valuable, because without any of that happening, we would be living the classic American quote dream right now and be swimming in 10 times the debt that we were in, because we never would have developed any of that intentionality and purposefulness and alignment and none of that. We'd be trying
sacrifice.
Yeah, honestly.
it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for us to sacrifice and live. I mean, beyond paycheck to paycheck. I mean, when it was for our dream life, as opposed to like just to wake up to go to a job that you fucking can't stand, but the paycheck is nice, and what that does to your psyche of like, well, I can't even, I get a vacation. Like that's my happy place is once a year I get a nice vacation.
Yeah.
They can take time off of work. Otherwise, I hate my fucking life by waking up, going to the same bullshit job, working with the same bullshit people. And I'd rather be broke.
That was a decision we had to make. That's a decision you have to make. What are your non-negotiables? And once you know that, what are your negotiables? Because for us, it was a non-negotiable to stay home with Blair as much as possible. Period. Putting her into full-time care was only going to add guilt to both of us. It was going to be directly against a value and a goal we had set up literally years prior to that and felt in our bones. It would have been a sacrifice to ourselves. It would have been a direct disalignment against ourselves, quite honestly. And so I don't think that we're told a lot to have the bravery to say those non-negotiables and to have the confidence to actually say what our goals are and to go after them, because so many people tell you that it's scary or it could go wrong. And it is scary and it could go fucking wrong.
Yeah. Good. That means it's worth doing.
Yep. It really does. High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
With intentionality. God, I hope that always goes through here. I don't mean
with
being an idiot.
as much information as you can obtain to minimize the risk. It's all you can do. I mean,
I like that.
Shit, it's one of the
highly
biggest...
informed risk brings the highest reward.
Yeah. There's no certainty that it's going to work out, but obviously you give yourself as much information as you possibly can. It's going to be minimized. Yeah. And of course, it's probably no coincidence that is and probably always will be one of the biggest regrets. Whenever they ask people on their deathbed, what's your biggest regret? It's not trying for that job. It's not going back to school to learn about my passion. It's not like taking that trip to the place that I never got to visit. Those are all the biggest regrets, is not taking that chance and giving themselves that shot. Mm-hmm. And people find it out all too late. And, even in your 30s, I'm sure even in your 40s, the shit people can come back from taking a risk, what you learn from that, just like the other motto we have, money's just money. You can always make more. It sucks. It's hard. Is it harder than reaching a point in your life when you're like, fuck, I literally can't. I don't have enough time left. Like, pick your hard. That's one of your favorite sayings. Yeah. Everything's fucking hard. Pick your hard.
Yep. That is one of my favorite sayings because it's true. It's part of our bag, folks. Hardship and challenge.
Yeah,
and you do actually get to choose a good amount of it. Not all of it, but there is more of it that you get to choose than you have been conditioned to believe. So, this was really fun. It was so fun recording with you again.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on the mic with you. Enjoyed it.
This is so good.
Thanks for having me, my love.
Of course. I hope that everybody enjoyed this. I hope that you felt some value from this and gathered some information and some inspiration from this. Jared and I have some cool, funsy plans for the future, so this won't be the last time that you hear from him. Until then, you'll hear from him through my beautifully edited voice. Since he edits the show. Thanks, babe. Everybody, you're awesome. And you got this. And you are, if nothing else, you're worth those deep aligned desires. Don't let fucking anybody tell you that you're wrong for those. Truly.
Yeah, you decide what you want. You don't let fucking nobody take that shit from you.
Yeah.
You go out and get it.
Yeah.
Period. That's it.
All right, everybody. This is a good one. Thanks for hanging with us today. As always, I appreciate the hell out of every single one of you and for taking their time to be here with us today. This was amazing. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your week, finishing out this first Mercury retrograde, keeping it real right before Saturn retrograde on Saturday. But we got this. We got this. In fact, I will say all of these retrogrades, just so you know, wonderful time to be really reflecting on your values and goals, okay? Especially with Saturn coming up. So give yourself the freedom and the time to do that and be bold and be brave. So have a fun week. Make sure that y'all stay safe and stay magical out there. Hey, you magical human. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of That Witch podcast. If you want to support the show, the best way to do that is to share with a friend or give a shout out on your social media. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. And if you can't get enough of all of our witchy magical content here in the neighborhood, you definitely want to make sure you're subscribed to my email newsletter, That Witch Gazette. It's a really fun, really convenient one-stop shop to stay up to date on all of the news and happenings here in our neighborhood. If you have any questions, suggestions, ideas for the show, or if you'd like to sponsor an episode, you can send me a message at thatwitchnextdoor.com/conjurethatwitch. Thank you so much. I'll see y'all next time.